Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Saturday, the 21st of March, 2020. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Virtually.
And Robert Kemp.
What, you're only partially here?
It's not what I said, but okay.
Virtually. You're virtually here. I mean, you're nearly here.
Yeah, I mean, that's also literally true usually. Like, technically, I'm virtually at your house all the time,
Virtually
in the grand
all the
scheme
time.
of things.
Some percentage of time is at my house.
Well, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, we only live a number of miles apart, so it's like I'm virtually at your house on a like global scale.
I see. I
We
see.
live a number of miles apart. It's just a bigger number.
I mean, on the global scale, yeah, they could apply to anyone in the UK. Really? I don't know. Or do you have to measure it in time? Is it like virtually near your house, like less than an hour?
Yeah, probably. That sounds like a reasonable timescale for like human travel distances, where it's like if it's more than an hour, that's like quite a serious trip.
Requires a bit of planning.
Unless you live in America, of course, where they'll drive 8 hours for no particular reason.
Yeah, it's just like I'm just going across the entire state for the weekend, and it's like, and how long of that do you actually spend at your location? About 2 minutes.
Got to turn around and come back.
We just love driving and burning that gasoline.
It's cheap.
Blah 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 blah.
It's going to get even cheaper at the moment.
Yeah, because fewer people buying it, so they get desperate. Is that how that works? Everyone
No,
get in your cars.
it was
Be
like
isolated in your cars, people.
Yeah. Well, I'm always virtual, so not always, but mostly.
I mean, you were never real.
Yeah, I was never real. I was never really here.
Just a figment.
So welcome
Can
to.
you be a figment on its own? Or do you have to be a figment of something?
I think that doesn't it just imply the other half of that phrase?
Yeah, I guess. It's more lyrical to say you're a figment as opposed to figment of my imagination. But then the of implies there could be of something else. Like I'm a figment of a podcast.
What is a figment?
Oh no, here we go.
Grammar corner.
It's time to Google. Yeah,
You're about to say something about the podcast, though. I cut you off.
I
I
was
gave
gonna
you a
say-
figment of a sentence.
so as you could probably tell from our spanking new intro music
It spanked.
and new intro words, this is a new season of the Saladcast.
Whoop, whoop.
What season are we on?
11.
That means we've been going 10
Bravo.
years. Irano. That's what I say to that.
Irano indeed.
Figment, noun, a thing that someone believes to be real, but that exists only in their imagination. Yeah,
No, so it does just imply the other half of that
Yeah,
it
phrase.
does. It does
So you
imply.
can't just say like a figment as a sort of like a small portion or well, it could be an imaginary part of something, I suppose. The figment of my well, no, that doesn't make sense. I don't know.
Hmm.
So if I said that like a figment of a podcast, does that mean I dreamt a podcast or a bit of a podcast?
Yeah, you imagined part of a podcast.
Wiktionary's got a slightly different definition. It says
I don't know
a
if something can
fabrication,
be-
fantasy, invention, something fictitious.
Okay, yeah. So that makes of something more usable then, in the way I'm thinking. I wonder if something can be figmented.
Or like fictionalizing.
Turned
Yeah.
into a figment. That's
It's
weird.
a figmented truth.
What, it started off true and then it became a
It's-
figment.
It started off as a lie, and then became an alternative fact, and then became figmented truth.
Figmented news.
Our currency of choice. How is everyone surviving in the apocalypse?
Apocalypse is going.
I mean, yeah, it's
Kind
continuing
of.
to go. It's a trundly apocalypse.
It's fairly trundly. Zach's fully prepared for social distancing.
I was never not prepared.
Exactly.
He's way ahead of us.
Yeah, way ahead.
I mean, he's even poo-pooed coming here, you know.
Wow, that really is social distancing.
Well, I thought since we're recording this and putting it out to theoretical people, we should probably set an example.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that. But we could just say you're somewhere else.
I think they'd be able to tell from the mic quality.
That's true.
Maybe.
Stay where you are, everyone. That includes you, Zeg.
No problem.
You're set up.
I was being a right grumpy old man on the on our runners chat thread about none of us can really run as a group anymore, which is my favorite way to run. I don't like running on my own, so I got totally not motivated, and so didn't do it today. And now my legs are screaming at me, saying, "Do something!"
Oh dear, you're gonna have to run alone. Yeah, you have to figure that out.
But I was a proper grumpy old man, and it was like, well, will they ban like the annoying screamy kids from playing outside our house? Apparently not. They're still there. Well, they were still there until the sun went down.
Technically, exercise, quote unquote, is an okay excuse to go out.
Yeah.
Football's a contact sport.
I don't think football's a good idea. Yeah.
It's not supposed to be a contact sport, but it kind of is. Tennis, maybe.
I think if you assume that all the children are all from like the same vicinity, then it's less bad if one of them spreads the illness between them.
It's still
like
bad.
It's bad, but it's not as bad as if it was like a football team where they live in like different parts of a city.
The parents around here just assume that they'll just have a pox party on the green, and if all the kids get it, they're probably not that much at risk, are they? So
we'll just go back to like measles or whatever. Get those kids infected now.
Absolutely, yeah. Not so much the kids that the problem is that the kids will pass it on to.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole idea.
Us normal people.
Us non-kids.
Non-child demographic.
If they get ill, they won't be able to scream nearly as much.
No, that's why I'm kind of thankful it's a respiratory problem.
Oh dear. I was looking today for that old web comic from Happysalad where you were talking about it being day 3 in the cage. I think it's day 8 in the cage now. I couldn't find it, by the way. I don't know where that one's gone.
No, I don't know where they've gone. I've only had to work from home for 3 days so far.
I've done all last week and Friday the week before, so and it's foreseeable future.
Yeah, they've still got partial news, I suppose. I think it's EGX Resd are still holding out hope that everything will be ready by July.
No,
they haven't cancelled anything yet.
That's stupid.
I mean, Resd is their sort of like indie show, isn't it? So it's
the Olympics still haven't been cancelled yet. Somehow,
not officially.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
You need. At least they cancelled Glastonbury because I got tickets, but luckily they're going to honour them for next time, which is great.
Oh, excellent! Yeah,
because it's a pain in the arse trying to get tickets, so you have to be very lucky.
It's weird that like in the at least in the running community, like a lot of them have been postponed instead of like outright cancelled. So some of them are now turning up at weird times of the year. Others that I think I'm in have basically said we're going to postpone it for a year, which is basically the same as cancelling it, but it's like deferring your entry, I guess.
Yeah.
London Marathon, they're saying that will run in October, which is odd.
It may or may not.
Yeah.
We'll see where we are by then. I don't think that's a good idea, even by October. We will see.
Yeah, I don't know. You'll be in resurgence season around then.
Yeah.
God, it's going to take. Is it really going to be that long? This is the bit I can't quite fathom. Is it really? Because this is going to be the worst.
Yeah, it's going to take ages. Lockdown.
I'm kind of surprised it's going to take like an entire year to make a vaccine. You would have thought we would have been quite good at that kind of thing by now.
They might do it a bit faster. Well, they're saying 12 to 18 months, but I'd be surprised if it was over 12, given that if you think about the economic imperative to develop a vaccine, right?
And it's not like those scientists are going to be able to do anything else with their time, really.
Yeah, it's like the most important thing in the world right now is to get that vaccine. So, like, I'm sure we could do it a bit faster than normal.
But even then, like an entire year, because like very basic understanding of vaccines. It's just like, I'm going to extremely simplify, and this is real bad, but it's just like it's a bunch of leftover dead bits of viruses. And you've got a whole shit ton of viruses around right now that you could probably look at.
Yeah, I guess it just
I
takes
think it's
time because you have to test it on animals, and then you have to test it on humans, and you have to wait long enough to see if it causes some horrific side effects before you give it to everyone in the world.
And presumably there must be some challenge in learning how to actually cultivate it, or whatever you do with viruses to make more of it.
I get.
How do you make more dead virus?
But they already know how to do that with other vaccines, right? I presume. So that part maybe they have figured out.
Maybe
that's why it seems like it shouldn't take nearly as long. And like even like similar viruses, like normal flu or whatever, similar kinds of viruses that you'd think they'd have a technique for.
Yeah, but on the other hand, they're not like like the common cold is a coronavirus, and you can't stop that, can you? Apparently,
but that's only because it mutates real fast, right? That's the reason why we don't really have vaccines for those kind of ones.
Yeah,
because you could make a vaccine, it would just be irrelevant after like 6 months.
Yeah.
Possibly, and maybe that's maybe the cynic in me is now thinking there's some suit somewhere that's going, well, we don't really want to make this. It's going to be a financial disaster because it's not going to.
No, it would be the ultimate product. Everyone would be well keen to get that.
Well, if Zach's right, for like a hot second, and then it's useless because the virus is gone and mutated.
Thus far, we're kind of hoping that this virus isn't going to just mutate and turn into the new cold, and then we'll really be fucked.
Mega cold.
We shall see. In the meantime, we're all on lockdown, and what is there to do but play video games? And luckily, we're quite well set up for that.
Yeah. It's looking to be a fairly decent season of games, so there's that.
Yeah. Well, assuming that some of them can actually get worked on and finished, because even video game companies still sometimes need to be in the same room as each other.
I mean, it helps, but I'm sure that. I bet it will slow down production. I don't think productivity is going to be as high as it normally would be. But
no.
But we're the games industry. It's the technical types will find solutions.
Yeah, working from home revolution is going to happen across digital. It's already happening for my company, so I'm sure.
I wonder how much of this will stick.
Yeah, that's
quite a lot. I think probably. I wouldn't be surprised if, and including in the game development industry, it'd probably be more common to work remotely. Then you could have remote teams, right, from across the world, like collaborating on games more than they already do. A lot more, probably.
I'm trying to remember who it is. There are definitely some studios that are almost entirely remote already.
Yeah, that's also true. And there's a few software companies that are like that in general. But GitHub, I think, is completely remote. I think, isn't it? Anyway.
I want to say Moon Studios started that way. The developers of Ori. I think they began as an entirely remote operation, but maybe they're a bit bigger now and need some actual rooms. But
yeah, shall see.
That's going to be the weird thing where it's like now suddenly everyone is learning how much you can just work from home, and it's just going to be like it's like the same with in America where suddenly all the ISPs have decided that they can actually just get rid of these bandwidth caps, totally no problem.
Yeah, of course they can. Obviously they can.
But first, they're going to charge you twice for it for a bit.
Well, except they're not going to.
No, they can't.
They're like, we're not going to charge for these unlimited bandwidths. And it's like, yeah, but then what? When this is going to be over, what are you going to do then? You're going to extremely piss everyone back off when they turn them back on.
Well, it basically means that internet service is definitely a utility now, right? Like electricity and water.
Wasn't it sort of on the cusp of becoming a human right at some point? Wasn't that discussion begun?
What does it mean to have a human right to electricity or something like that? What does that mean? I mean, obviously it's a necessity, but is it a human right? Well, surely that's freedom or something.
Yeah, this is where it gets a bit weird for me. I don't fully understand these processes, but vaguely remember,
if people had a right to shelter, then there would be it would be illegal for governments to allow homelessness, wouldn't it? So surely that's not a right. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I've got no idea. It's like they're probably just Optimistic goals.
Yeah. Okay.
These are our values. These are our country values. Let's make a 5-letter acronym and put it on a poster somewhere.
Yeah. Well, we've got the right hobbies for staying indoors all the time, haven't we? Video games.
Apart from
good.
Rob with his running.
Yeah, apart from my running.
No, running's okay though. It's just that
it's
just running alone is allowed.
Yeah,
or he'll just have to run around in his garden, a very short lap.
You can't really.
Or I wait until Ring Fit Adventure comes back in stock, and then I try and get hold of one.
Yeah, I've got my guitars and shit. That's quite useful. Games consoles, yeah, films.
I mean, if we're still stuck at home at the holiday season, at least there's new consoles to look forward to.
Maybe. I hear that they might be delayed into next year.
Well, let's hope not.
I haven't seen an official word on that yet, but maybe that's a leak from somewhere.
That sounds like news. Well, not
a little bit newsy.
So what's cancelled? E3 is cancelled.
Yeah, that's the biggie.
The question is, will E3 ever come back?
Yeah,
not related.
Yeah. This is. I mean, it's fascinating, this stuff, because presumably all of the major publishers aren't too fussed about this, and I'm not too fussed because it's the best bit of E3 for people like us who don't go is the press conferences and things like that. Yeah. So they won't be able to run them as a press conference. So we're probably all going to get direct material out
direct
of them.
Style.
Which might be okay, but we've seen other companies try it on occasion and do a somewhat up and down job. Like, I'm not sure if Bethesda have had a particularly great run of occasionally doing their direct style things.
I mean, people can't do any worse than what Square does at E3, which is basically a direct, but a real bad one.
Kinda, yeah. Square's shows haven't been great for a while. Although last year's wasn't as bad, I suppose, as it has been. They had a number of new announcements last year, which is something.
I think it was like their one was just like you got into a haze of hype about Final Fantasy VII, and you didn't like that was all you remember from that whole thing.
I don't. What that wasn't even announced, was it? At Square, they do that at Sony.
No, they did. They might not have announced it. They might have announced it before at Sony, but I think they did a whole presentation on the Square one.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Not that it was even an announcement at that point. Everyone already knew about it.
Sure, but maybe we'll be spared some of EA's nonsense.
Well, they already did their own thing, though, right?
They had their own thing, yeah, but it wasn't last year. Last year they eschewed the press conference format entirely and did like a streaming day, didn't they? Which was garbage. And they had nothing to say anyway. All the anything interesting they said wasn't really in that thing. It was rubbish. Like most of EA these days. Troubling time.
And I think it's safe to say Ubisoft isn't going to have a problem making it direct, because their whole presentation is pretty much not even anything to do with the stage anyway. It's just videos.
Yeah, I mean, Ubisoft might not have their Just Dance stage number.
Well, they might, but they might all stand like 6 feet apart while dancing.
Yeah, you see, all that's going to get troublesome as well. I assume like TV and film's going to have to shut down as well.
Yeah. I mean,
well,
already
the things.
Like the late night shows in New York or whatever, they don't have audiences, which is quite weird. Like no laughs.
Huh. They need some high fidelity. What do you call it? Skype link to various people watching. And have them go,
a conference call audience.
Yeah, massive conference call of people at home laughing.
That would just be like some amount of white noise. At least it would sound like a distant crowd, I suppose. Like the Late Show, but even bigger.
Yeah.
And then there'll be that one guy that you could hear really clearly. That guy is funny. I am laughing, ha ha. I love Skype.
The epic return of Moo Guy.
Yeah. No. There'll be so many more troll shows, though, wouldn't they? Like the anonymity, perhaps, of it would mean that, like,
Yeah.
you'd have so many more heckles. It could be great. So much more middle of the day swearing. We've got a caller, at least women from the audience. I assume question time will get slightly less entertaining.
Yeah, they're already trying to plan what to do for question time.
Yeah, so E3, no, in its form. Jeff Keighley might have known.
I think he knew, like, this particular reason. He might have been like, yeah, this E3 thing is going away.
Jeff Keighley, the prophet.
But it hasn't stopped everything, right? Because we've got new console details.
We have, yeah, things are still happening. So both Microsoft and Sony in the last couple of weeks have fleshed out what they've been. Well, Microsoft fleshed out what they'd already said effectively about Series X and what's going to be in it, just confirming details here and there. Whereas PlayStation, we got Mark Cerny up on stage, weirdly, telling us about what PS5's all about. And whilst the consoles are, as predicted, relatively similar in terms of design, they're both relying on the same generation style chips from AMD, for instance, for the GPUs and CPUs. But there are some key differences here and there that are kind of that will make the machines different. And, not just it doesn't matter, follow the games or follow Game Pass. It is a little more interesting than that.
Yeah.
So the Series X is boasting about we've got 12 teraflops of power. We've got clock speeds higher than the PlayStation 5 across the board. We also have an NVMe SSD, and we also have 16 gigabytes of GDDR6. So all of that is kind of the same, but where it gets interesting is these little details here and there. So especially let's start with the SSD, because that's PlayStation have been talking about that as the one thing, really, up to this point.
Yeah,
that was their go-to.
Their Spider-Man demo of like super speed through the city.
Absolutely, yeah. And if their specification is to be believed, then yeah, they've got one hell of an advantage over the Series X here, because their SSD is clocked in at literally twice what the Series X can do. And that NVMe drive that they've put in the X is no slouch either.
No. But it seems like they've super tuned the pathway of getting shit into memory. Yeah.
It's really interesting. Like, just the raw speed of that drive is ridiculous. I think they were talking about like prioritizing disk access as well. So when you request something off the disk, man, I do that more frequently than I should. Say disk wrong. You can prioritize your loads, like, so as a developer, so you can sort of say, "Oh, I need this right now," as opposed to give it to me when you can. And things like that. So like without having to build your own sort of queuing system,
priority system.
It's all just in the bus, and that's kind of cool. That's they are absolutely doing what they said they would do. Not just an NVMe drive; it is something extremely custom. But that's the other thing. So like the problem with these setups is that using expandable storage, like the current consoles do, where they let you just plug in your own extra storage devices, no longer really a viable route on either platform. You can't really fit that yourself. So Xbox have shown us what their solution is, and it's a proprietary card slot on the back of the machine where you can plug in a Seagate drive, who they are clearly partnering with to do this thing, because it's etched into the prototype of the card that they've been showing people. So who knows exactly how much those things are going to cost, and probably looking upwards of £100, probably 150, I reckon, for one
For
of
an
these 1
expansion
terabyte
card.
expansions. Yeah,
Mm.
they are a terabyte supposedly, but there's room for those to be bigger and bigger in the future.
Mm.
And at current pricing, I would probably peg that with the proprietary nature, probably about 150 quid to get an extra terabyte in your console. Sony stuff is going the same route, but they haven't really told us anything about how their proprietary system is going to work. Just that
they've said a little bit in that press conference, I think.
Well, I think they said it was going to, it's a card. You're going to have to plug in something that they provide, but I haven't seen the detail about what that is.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Moving on to things like the GPU and stuff. So the PS5's overall compute power is estimated to be about 10.2 teraflops, so a little bit less than the Xbox. And their GPU has fewer compute units and generally lower clock speeds overall. So maybe actual game performance is going to take a little bit of a hit this time round compared to the Xbox. Which is the exact opposite of what we saw at the start of the last generation. The flip-flop has happened again.
Yeah. Well, arguably it already happened with the
I suppose
the
PS3
Xbox One X or whatever compared to the Pro.
Sure, yeah. And, the PS3 was, I suppose, technically more powerful than the 360. It's just that people didn't quite know how to utilize it at its launch. Technically. That
was a different time when everything wasn't the same.
when architectures were crazy. Yeah. So it's on paper looks like the PS5 might not be able to keep up with the Series X in raw power.
But it's reasonably close. It's
pretty close, yeah. And for most people, I don't think we're going to miss it, at least at launch. Like, there's not going to be too much to shout about. There's the possible. And Digital Foundry make the totally relevant, accurate point here that these numbers are just a metric. They're not actually representative of real world performance. They're just a number by which these things can be measured. So I'm sure DF will tell us what it's like nearer the time. What else we got? So the memory bus, while they've got using the same GDDR6 memory itself, the PS5's bus is it's again very slightly slower than the Series X, probably about by the same margin as that teraflops number. So the RAM loading speed is going to be slightly slower. That's kind of the bulk of it. They didn't really, Xbox talked a little bit more about their controller, which is pretty much what you'd come to expect. It's like the current one, no real new bells and whistles going on. And PlayStation are yet to really show us or let people have a hands-on with their crazy haptic tech that they are claiming will be the next thing for their controller. So that's still a big unknown as to whether that's a meaningful thing. And finally, Sony talked about their backwards compatibility.
What about all the audio stuff that he was?
So there's been talk of that on both sides, really. Sony are pushing the audio side harder than Xbox are, for sure.
Yeah.
But both of them have been. I didn't mention this because it's kind of exactly the same. They're both saying they've got some form of hardware ray tracing.
Right.
The only real GPU bullet point that Sony hasn't said is the variable rate shading thing, which is the tech that lets you lower the detail of your shaders in certain areas of the screen, so you're not pushing full power across the entire frame. You're only pushing it where you really need the detail. So, for instance, if you've applied a depth of field effect to the background already, you don't really need to be rendering the shader that does the nice shiny texture on a tree, for instance, at quite so much detail as you would if it was in focus. So you can use variable rate shading to try and dial these in and save power here and there to keep your frame rates up. Both consoles have got FreeSync or variable frame rate technology in them for TVs, and both are claiming to be able to go up to 120 frames.
Right.
So all of that's the same. But yeah, the one bullet point that Sony haven't talked about is variable rate shading. Now I assume that means it's because it may be being included as part of DirectX 12 Ultimate, like as a thing you can use easily, maybe on the Microsoft side. And maybe that's the only thing. I assume the GPU can deal with it. Apparently, developers are already coming up with their own solutions for doing variable rate shading in games we see today.
Right.
So it's not. It's like this is just, I guess, library support. So they don't have to build their own, I guess. That's my take on it, anyway. Could be completely wrong. But yeah, I was going to move on to backwards compatibility because
Sure, okay.
Microsoft have absolutely committed to this. So Xbone stuff will just work on the Series X. However, Sony have been a little more cagey with this. They are almost taking it with the stance that Microsoft did when they put the 360 onto the Xbone, in that we're going to have to look at this on a game by game basis, and figure out if it's actually going to work. And if we test it and we say it does, then we'll put it on the service, and you can just use it.
But they are saying that they've tried like the top 100 games by popularity, and they mostly work.
I think they were saying they're going to have a few hundred, at least from the PS4 era. Supported. They didn't mention anything about stuff earlier than that, though. Only that this is all going to be rolled out over time. So it's not going to be 100% at launch. There will be more stuff coming, but they didn't really say anything specifically about PS3 or PS2 or even PS1 support. Maybe because it might be a little bit murky what with some games from the PS2 and PS1 era being re-released as PS2 and PS1 games that you can play on the PS4. So maybe they've created a slight commercial problem for themselves.
Is it a massive deal if you can't play PS3 games? I don't know. I mean, maybe it is.
I mean, PS3's got some bangers.
Oh yeah, of course it does. But like
half of them have been remade, but
yeah,
it's got some stuff. You want to play that PS3 version of You Don't Know Jack, which is clearly the best recent version they've made.
So can I play Jet Set Radio Future on my Xbox Series X?
No, I don't think Future actually ever hit the compatibility list.
Blast.
Yeah, because I played it on my original Xbox when I had it out recently. Yeah, that's there are some big omissions, and Microsoft have kind of like what's the phrase I'm looking for? Wound down their backwards compatibility work on original Xbox stuff. Presumably because they were having to make sure Xbone stuff worked. I don't know.
Exactly. Interesting.
I suppose Xbox has the slight advantage that underneath everything is kind of Windows based, right? So it's games running on the Xbone are kind of running on Windows. Kind of. So their ability to move it to the new platform isn't so difficult.
So, what are your personal thoughts? Like, are you probably leaning to an Xbox as standard as the first one?
Yeah,
around?
so I am leaning that way for no other reason than Game Pass,
isn't it? Oh, Game Pass, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because Game Pass gives me a really good early window into what that console will do. I will pick it up day one, and I'll have access to a ton of stuff, whether that be boosted Xbone games, or the launch library. Pretty much the entire launch library will probably end up what that Microsoft themselves put out will be on the new console day one. So it's a decent place to start, and I'm using the hell out of Game Pass. So it seems like a decent option for me. However, on the flip side, yeah, you're absolutely right. PlayStation has the better stable of exclusives at the moment.
Well, at the moment, yeah.
And that Last of Us Part 2 PS5 version won't be far behind the original. You know it.
No.
Pretty much anything that comes out this year, you're going to get that enhanced version pretty soon. Afterwards, you would expect. So on that front, PS5 has got it going for, which is frustrating to me. because I kind of wish Sony had Game Pass, that kind of thing. They do kind of have it with PlayStation now, but it's not nearly as good.
Well, maybe they'll upgrade. I mean, that's something that they can do independent of the hardware, right? So
absolutely, there's news to come. We might hear more.
Yeah, I expect so.
If all their exclusives suddenly became PlayStation Now titles on day one, then hey, that's a hell of a sell.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man 2 comes out, yeah, you've got it. God of War 2, yeah, you've got it. Compelling. So right now, the other side is, hey, you want Halo Infinite? Yeah, you get it.
Yeah,
Probably.
exactly. Are you still hyped for Halo Infinite, or were you ever hyped for that?
I mean, I'm hyped because it's been a long time since Halo 5.
Yeah, I hope it's good.
Halo, as I said, I wouldn't say Halo 5 single player was the best, but its multiplayer was killer. So it's like it's a mixed bag, but it seems like they're doing something very different, so I'm intrigued. Or they might not be. We don't know. We really don't know. I mean, maybe we'll get onto this a little bit later, but Zach and I have been playing a bit of ODST recently. Like the Master Chief version, admittedly. But it's... but, there's those games hold up probably better than any other shooter in my eyes. It's like there's something about how those original ones, the Bungie ones, play that just isn't. That just doesn't. It doesn't get old. They are fantastic. It's like that combat chess or whatever. The 30 seconds.
Completely. They got it so right.
It's fantastic. Even when you're playing against the odds and having frustrating circumstances in legendary mode, it's still a hell of a lot of fun. And it's they haven't nailed that in 4 and 5, not at all. But not to the I say not at all, but not nearly as close. So it's hard to get the most hype for it. But at the end of the day, it's still Halo. So we'll see. And I hope they do finish the story of Halo 5. Just to see where it goes. Give me some closure. Come on. Yeah, so that's that. Unless there's anything else you think I missed on the comparison front?
No,
you still don't know what the PS5 looks like.
No.
Still waiting for that V.
It's not even that important, is it? But superficially, it is.
I mean, people are mildly worried about the shape of the Series X.
Oh, that's true, because it's like a weird chimney thing.
Yeah,
right?
It's a cooling tower. Intentionally a cooling tower. And it's it might be slightly awkward. Although apparently it works just as well horizontally as it does vertically. But it is slightly odd shape. Digital Foundry described it as 2 GameCubes taped together.
You can't do that. That's what you have to call Nintendo's consoles. Because that's not actually talking about the shape, it's talking about the power.
Like 2 Wii's stuck together. Is that what it was? Was it the description of the Wii U?
Well, it was all of those previous ones. They were like the 2 GameCubes stuck together as the Wii.
Right.
And the 2 Wii stuck together as
the Wii U.
It's the Wii U.
And then when they like talking about the Wii as being as like the size of a few DVD cases at one point as well.
Yeah.
They love their it's the size of. So that's that. The only other 2 little bits there's a couple of little bits of news here and there. That Horizon Zero Dawn for PC has been confirmed. That is real and is happening. Because I guess they might as well, given the Death Stranding port.
Right.
Of the Decima engine. So that's real. Frontier Developments have nicked the F1 license to make management games, which had everyone worried about Codemasters, but Codemasters are unaffected. They can still make their racing games.
Cool.
and Call of Duty Warzone, which we'll talk about a bit later, kind of released. Attempted a shadow drop, but it got leaked ahead of time. It's a free battle royale mode, because of course it is.
With like waiting for the battle royale craze to tail off. We all thought it was the worst when you had the Battlefield situation.
Right, yeah.
Where they were like, we're going to put a battle royale mode in, and it's not even going to be in at launch. It's going to come later.
And a long time later in the end. And there was really no fanfare about it when it came out.
No,
No
because
one
obviously everyone, no one cared. Everyone knew it was a bad idea from the start.
But then this we'll talk about it a little later. But this one is different from the one that they bundled in with the one of the Call of Duties. I can't remember which one it was now. Black Ops 4, I think it turned up in first. But it wasn't in Modern Warfare until now. Dun dun dun. And finally, there was a Nintendo Indie Showcase.
Not a direct, annoyingly. Although
Not a direct.
rumors
No.
have it that's going to happen sometime this week.
They have to, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing on their docket now. Apart from Breath of the Wild 2.
Prime.
Well, yeah, but we know no concrete details on when anything is coming out anymore. Like the Nintendo slate is clean. Other than
Breath
their
of the Wild
indies.
2.
Yeah, but we don't know when that's coming out.
No, we don't know.
We just know it's there, like Metroid Prime 4 and what else?
Now will be the time for them to show whether those previous rumors about new Paper Mario and 2D Metroid game are true.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And then maybe F-Zero will turn up, but it won't.
Come on, F-Zero.
Come on. Just
or, Pikmin 4, the other one everyone's constantly bitching about.
But wasn't Pikmin 3 not that much of a success for them?
I think that was probably because of the console rather than the game. I expect if they put out a new Pikmin on Switch, it'd probably do pretty good.
Probably,
Isn't it more likely that they'll just repackage Pikmin 3?
Well, yeah, but the pointer in Pikmin 3 was kind of its big deal, and I'm not sure you can translate that directly to the Switch.
Okay. They'll find a way.
Not that many games use the Wiimotiness of the nunchucks, do they?
I'm not even sure how it actually worked in Pikmin 3. It was just the gyro in the gamepad, I guess.
Was it? Or was it... was Pikmin 3 Wii or was it Wii U? Because Wii U, there'd be the touchpad controls.
Yeah,
right?
but they put it out on both, I think.
Oh, right.
Then again, you could have just had a Wii remote plugged into the Wii U, I guess. Because that works.
That would work, yeah. That would be just fine. Yeah. I think that's news, because there wasn't actually really anything in that indie showcase I cared about at all.
No.
Okay. I guess it's time for what you've been playing in terms of, but there's some newsy type stuff in there. Is that true?
Well, new games. At least one.
Yeah,
new games. Who's been playing new games?
I've been playing new games.
What have you been playing?
Games. Who wants to go? No, Zach can go. I've been talking for a while.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to talk about new games because I'm going to cover the other things first real quick before we get onto the actual new game.
Suspense.
Yep. Dispense?
No, I said suspense.
No, it sounds like dispense.
You've got to do that too.
You want
Dispense
suspense? Yeah. Dispense your suspense.
Dispense with the suspense and tell us.
I finished 2 Point Hospital. Or, the base game, I guess, because I don't have any of the DLCs.
Okay.
So I got through those last couple of missions.
I'm still miles away.
Well, you also haven't been doing all the 3 stars.
No.
So you technically even got a lot more to do after that, in theory.
I tried going back and doing a few, but they still took forever.
Yeah,
I went after you talked about it last time. I went and tried to do that public service one, the public hospital.
Yeah.
Staff morale sucks. It's Well, I'm finding it really hard to actually get that to a suitable number.
Well, again, it's kind of the same as the attractiveness mission, where you just have to do it right at the end. Like once you've achieved every other objective and you only have the last of the 3 stars to go, because the 1 and 2 star goals aren't that difficult. But like when you got the last, where it's like stuff around has to be 95% to finish the 3 star, so you just wait until you've done everything else and then just like mash the 1% pay rise button over and over until it works. It's like it's not sustainable. Like you'll probably immediately go bankrupt if you continue to play that level. But you hit the objective, and that's all that matters. Just like real hospitals.
I've hit my hard targets. Yeah, I actually got myself into a bit of trouble on that level in the end because I was actually struggling for money at one point. So I was having to take out loans to meet the objectives to then repay the loans. And yeah, I'm in a better place where I've left it when I just got 2 stars. But yeah, I was juggling it a little bit. Also, messed with the custom soundtrack.
Yeah,
it's way better now. I pulled in stuff from like the Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo soundtracks, and it's great.
I could never. After I imported the Infinite Factory soundtrack that first time, I just went back to the default one. It's like it's really annoying, and those songs are going to be stuck in my head forever. But it's just like it's just way more suitable.
Yeah.
I was like, this is far too thematically nice to just go in the background of this game.
Yeah, I found quite a lot of casual jazz works quite well.
Yeah, I guess it would. I probably should have tried to actually fucking find where the hell I put the SimCity 4 soundtrack, because that pretty much is quite a lot of casual jazz.
Sort of. It's got lots of like. Okay, that sounds like something falling down the stairs. I'm gonna go deal with that.
Okay. So yeah, finish up Teeth Hospital. The last level made the last level is weird because at the start the objective is like, it's the last level kind of typical thing where it's just like, just build a really big hospital is really the only objective. And then it's like, watch out because you're going to get shit tons of patients and it's going to be real busy. And it's like, it's not really that much worse than any other level. And also because you still unlock the separate buildings or whatever over time. And the number of buildings and the amount of space you have on that map is like about 3 times as much as you're going to ever use. It's like I finished the last level and I'd only unlocked like a third of the buildings
of the map.
Yeah, it's just like this is highly unnecessary. Although, like, it's so much space that you can start just building unnecessarily large rooms if you want.
Yeah, you can actually start making a nice hospital.
Yeah, exactly. You could actually have space to put other crap in other than just the machines that the room actually needs.
Quite bad going back to when I started playing some of those earlier levels again, because like my layouts are terrible. Like my earlier ones, I don't know if it was just the shape of the buildings I was working with and whether they were actually decent layouts, but I looked at them and was like, ugh.
Well, you've learned. That's the whole idea.
I guess. Yeah.
Even if on some level all you've really learned is how to exploit the game, not really like actual good layout plans or anything. It's just like, how can I force this game to work the way I want it to?
I guess my layouts are more gritty now than they were back then. Or like I'd plan like, okay, this room needs to be this size, so I'll leave a space here that's the right size.
Yeah, or like you know, like at some point you're probably going to need a second general diagnosis, so just leave a space there for the second one once you get to that point.
Oh no, my hospital still tend to be like a patchwork quilt of stuff.
Although in the later levels, it turns into a bit of a situation where it's just like, as soon as you build one fucking mega scanner, like 99% of diagnosis just goes to it. So you're just going to probably not going to just build one; you're going to immediately build 3.
Yeah,
because otherwise they'll immediately get overloaded.
I found that with surgery as well.
Yeah, it's just because surgery is like quite slow, and you also have to have the doctor and the nurse there. So if either one of them goes on break, then it fucks up the whole queue, and then you have to wait for them to come back.
Yeah,
it's kind of annoying.
Sending a whole load of people home in my public hospital.
Yeah.
Sorry, we can't serve you. Please go home and die.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like when you're kicking people out when the health warning comes up, when their health is low, and you're like, go home and die. Don't die in the hospital because then I won't lose reputation.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with me then. Management, yo.
So there's that. Finished that. What else did I finish? Oh, I finished Luigi's Mansion 3.
Hey.
Got round to finishing that off. Didn't really actually have that much more to do. I didn't really remember where I was. But I feel like the last 4 or 5 floors have been work like kind of disappointingly small. Like there was a couple of floors that literally are just a corridor and then the boss room.
Right.
Which is kind of disappointing.
The hotel actually tapers at the top.
I guess. So, there's a fucking dance hall on the 14th floor, which doesn't really make much sense. And a museum. The dance hall level at least had good music, as you would hope.
Excellent.
And it also, because of theming, has it so that when you have the, when the ghosts appear and you have the... Actually, I hadn't really noticed this, but the way the music is in this game is every floor has its background music. And then it has the fight music when the ghosts appear. But then when you actually start sucking something up, it has this little riff that loops. But that the whatever tune of that riff is the same on every floor. It's just in that floor style.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Which is kind of nice. But yeah,
so there's a sucking motif.
Yeah, that's right. But then the dance hall one has the added bonus of when you're in the fight music and you start sucking of a ghost, when it transitions to the sucking music, it has a record scratch as well. Which is obviously what you want.
There's something very funny about just the way this phrase is going, the sucking music.
You've got to have plenty of record scratches in the dance hall level. And then you fight a breakdancing ghost band, I guess,
Naturally.
on the dance floor.
Sweet.
And then the boss ghost is like a DJ with a giant afro.
Fabulous.
So that floor is nice thematically, but is one of those floors that is just corridor boss fight.
Right, yeah. But do the boss fights play all right? Because I feel like that's when I hear criticisms about Luigi's Mansion 3 that it's the boss fights that let it down.
Well, I think I said this even in the early game when I'd only done a couple of them. They vary drastically between really complicated and cool, and then just really dumb. So it's you get half and half, where it's this is cool, but then there's this other one that is just really annoying or just really too simple.
Oh right, I was about to say, do they go down? Is it just that's your feelings towards the mechanics, where they mechanically work for you sometimes and mechanically work other times? But no, if they're also too simple, then that's a weird mix.
And of course, the other thing I said about it before was it doesn't always do a very good job of indicating what you have to do.
Yeah.
But
Just whip the Virtual Boy out, and
even that dance hall bit with the breakdancing ghosts is you see in the sequence that leads up to it, they take the elevator button, one of the ghosts takes it and shoves it under his hoodie. So then it's you can't tell which one it is, obviously. Classic kind of thing. But then they just do a bunch of breakdancing moves and you're just there on the dance floor with them, and it doesn't really tell you what to do. So you just have to use the airburst thing to hit them when they're near you until you find the one that has it. But it's it doesn't tell you that, and it also doesn't really tell you what you then have to do, which is once you airburst and find the one that has it, you have to really quickly flash them with the flashlight, which causes them to try and chuck it to one of the other ones, and then you have to really quickly suck up that one to prevent them from passing it between them. It's just it doesn't...
Yeah, there's an element of this that sounds there's nothing inherently wrong with having a sort of puzzly boss every now and then, but it's is it still easy to take damage and die through all of this?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely died a couple of times during boss fights before I figured out what I was doing. I was just how do I actually even progress? I've already taken too much damage and died.
Yeah.
I very nearly died on the last boss because of that. Whereas how do I open this guy up to get hit? On the plus side, the last boss, once you get him open, doesn't really do anything complicated. It was I need to double team him with Luigi, and that's it. And
How
also,
does that work then in single player?
well, when you switch between them, there's one of the things that you can do is like if you suck onto something that needs pulling, but it's too heavy for just Luigi by himself, you can, if you hold down the suck button and then hit the switch button, the person you've switched from continues to suck. So you like lock the first person onto it, attach the second person, and then you can do the pull move with both simultaneously.
I see. So he's standing in place just with the Hoover on.
Yeah.
And then.
So yeah, and then the game kind of ended really abruptly as well.
Oh, you didn't really get a nice story finish.
Not really. That's the weird thing. It's like you get all the way to the top of the hotel, and I guess it's not even slightly a spoiler to say you fight King Boo, because obviously.
I mean, he's introduced pretty near the start of the game.
Yep, and also he's been the boss of all three of these games.
Sure.
But yeah, you go up there, you fight him, and then the hotel just sort of collapses. And then for some reason you decide, why don't we just rebuild a new hotel on top of this ruined hotel that's still full of ghosts, except the ghosts are nice now, because that's how ghosts work in the Luigi's Mansion universe. So the ghosts will help us build this new hotel. And then, I don't know, that's it. You just leave after that. I guess EGAD runs that hotel now.
And the Mario Empire makes even more cash.
Yeah. You even get to see Princess Peach doing building work in the outro.
What? Is she wearing like a Mario Maker?
Yeah, a hard hat. Well, no,
okay.
Just a hard hat.
Just the hard hat and the pink dress.
Yep.
Impractical.
Luigi hammering a nail through his own hand because he's greedy, and that's what you do.
Why wouldn't you? If you could.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. It just ends kind of abruptly and doesn't really have a very satisfying end to the story.
Yeah,
and also, well, I guess I finished it before I got all the gems and booze. So technically, I probably could finish it again and see if it has like a secret 100% ending or whatever.
An extended cut.
But I doubt it does. And I got A rank.
Yay.
Which is,
you get like the money count up at the end, or something like the previous games did.
Well, you don't really. That's the thing that kind of sucks, is like you don't really get the money count up. You just get a number and your rank. It doesn't tell you anything specific, which is kind of weak. It doesn't say how many gold bars you got. Although there are like in-game mini achievements for sucking up some number of gold bars and some number of coins. So yeah. I guess
not really chivos.
Yes, because it's Nintendo. They don't actually have achievements. They just have fake in-game achievements. Or if you're playing Animal Crossing, you have Nook Miles.
Nook Miles. That sounds a little bit northern, doesn't it?
On your Nook phone.
Miles.
So yeah, I started playing Animal Crossing because it came out.
Of course you did.
Hey, new stuff.
Yep. And I was fairly surprised at how much I could get done on like the first 2 days, because it's only been 2 days so far. It's like,
pleasantly surprised.
Well, the thing is, like, it's nice to be able to play that game for like more than 30 minutes at a time, or per day, I guess. Yeah. But like, I feel like they might be front loading it a bit too much, because like in the first 2 days, I guess they haven't been built yet, but I've theoretically completed the tasks that are needed to build the museum and the shop. And that's like 2 of the maybe 4 major buildings, as far as I know. It's just like, that seems like it's a bit fast. And also, we've gone from like...
back on you. There's maybe there's new stuff.
Maybe, but they definitely haven't shown any footage of it if there is. But like, we've gone from deserted island to museum in like under a day. I mean, the museum isn't built yet. It's still going to take some number more days after this, but still.
It's a little thematically weird, but all right.
I've also paid off my first house loan as well. I've already built the first stage of the house and started the second one. No tent for me. Literally 1 night in a tent, and then I've already built a house. See, I don't know.
Actual real game hours has that taken to get that far then? Were you still... Is it just because you were on it doing everything you could in that time frame, or
Well, yeah, I mean,
would
to
the
some
average
extent,
user put it down before then?
to some extent, it is a matter of like doing everything you can will get you to that point. Because it's like, it's particularly the first part where you're the first paying off the 10th loan is in Nook miles, not money. And the Nook miles are like, they're like in-game achievements. So just doing stuff gets you the miles over time. So essentially doing anything in that game is how you're going to get those to start with. So spending just time is going to get you that. But even then, I don't think I spent that long. It was probably only like a couple of hours on the first night and maybe like a few hours today as well.
Yeah, but still, yeah, that might not be how veterans of Animal Crossing play that game, if you know what I mean.
No, I think that is how veterans play it because they know everything that's going on. They're like,
well, that's what I mean. Is like, is that the standard? Like moving forward, it's like, would you expect to be able to do a couple of hours every day?
Well, you probably. Well, the thing is, I think in this game more than the other ones, you probably could play it for as long as you want and still feel like you were making progress because of the Nook Miles thing, where like even just catching bugs, a number of bugs, any bugs over time, you'll get more Nook Miles. It's like a little achievement, and that will like give you that sensation of still making progress. But like, it's not necessarily interesting progress, I guess. You're just doing things to make a number go up. And that's maybe not what Animal Crossing is meant to be about. It's meant to be doing things to make it look nice. And there's only so much of that you can do at the start, where you don't have any crafting recipes or anything, or any of the proper shops.
Or maybe all of the tools, or...
Well, you get most of the tools pretty quickly. Or at least the basic versions, before you get the upgraded versions that don't break as quickly, of course.
Right, yeah.
Durability.
Gold watering can.
Yeah, so it's still... I think, like, from the trouble is that if you have played one of these games before, because it has all of the same stuff again... Like, you might not think that you're going to get the museum, but you do, because even on the deserted island, we're somehow going to come up with a reason to have a museum and then donate all the bugs and the fish and the fossils to the museum. So, like, anyone who's played one of these games before is like, well, okay, that just means I have to unlock the museum as soon as possible so that all this effort that I'm putting into catching bugs and stuff isn't wasted, because they need to be donated to the museum.
Need to be catalogued ASAP.
Yeah. So, there is some element of, like, if you know how these games work, you might be kind of rushing it. Although, conversely, if you might not know how the games work as well, I think it also might suffer slightly from like not fully explaining systems again, as Nintendo games tend to do. Like, I was talking to someone playing it, and it was like, at the start of the game, it's like, go and take your flimsy axe, go and hit this rock, and then that rock will drop like iron ore or whatever.
Right.
A certain amount every day comes out of this rock. But it doesn't tell you that you can hit the rock multiple times. Which you can. You can hit it like up to 8 times consecutively and more stuff comes out. And then it introduces this, there's a new system in this game where if you eat the fruit, it like powers you up, and that allows you to either dig up an entire tree so you can move trees around without having to wait for them to regrow, or you can just break a rock, which will cause it to respawn on the next day in a different location.
Oh, right. Interesting.
But the thing is...
If you find one that's like miles away and it's like, oh, I'd quite like this to spawn nearer.
Or you just want like to build something nice there and there's just a rock in the way. Although when you're building buildings, it just deletes anything that's in the way automatically. But I'm talking more like paths or whatever, I guess, in the future. But the thing it doesn't tell you is like, so it gives you the system to be like, you eat the fruit, and then it has a little meter or whatever that's like 1 out of 10, so you can eat 10 fruit to power yourself up. 10, not really, it's not like 10 levels, it's 10 uses, I suppose. You can store up to 10 uses of this powered up ability by eating the fruit. But it doesn't really explain that the fact that is while you've eaten the fruit and you've become powered up, if you hit a rock, the rock just breaks.
Right.
But if you're not powered up and you hit a rock, you can hit it over and over to get more ore out of it, rather than the rock just breaking immediately and disappearing.
Oh, I see. So if you hit the rock while powered up, you don't get as much stuff out of it.
No, the rock just gets destroyed and you only get one thing instead of potentially 8.
I see.
It's like, oh, I guess that system is kind of badly explained. Because I guess it's confusing because it appears to be like a food system, but it's like, obviously it's not a survival game. You don't have to eat ever.
Your villager has died.
So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of one of those things where it's like, as ever with these kind of Nintendo games, where it's like, occasionally you forget that new players play these things.
I'm sure they'll figure it out.
When you first started playing Animal Crossing, then was it when? Do you remember that first experience being slightly flaky like this? Or?
Well, the thing is, I think, like for me at that time, I would have looked stuff up beforehand, or have just not really looked stuff up, just sort of inherently known things from like, because probably I would have seen bits of it on YouTube or whatever beforehand,
right.
before actually playing it, and just generally know about the Animal Crossing series in general. I suppose that would just teach you some stuff by default. But yeah, for a newer player, you might not have that kind of background knowledge of how the game systems works.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then I did also get the chance to briefly try the multiplayer thing, going to each other's islands, looking around, which, as predicted, is completely pointless.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can you do nothing? Oh, you can grant people powers, though, can't you, to do stuff?
You can allow them to like cut down trees and whatnot. Like you can allow them to do the things that are like actually destructive in theory, if you want them to. But there's no actual benefit to going to another person's island, except for if they have a different kind of fruit. Your fruit from your island sells at a higher price. So if you go to their island to sell it, you get more from your island's fruit.
Oh, right, okay.
But it's
but it's not possible for that island's fruit to appear in yours?
Well, if you get that fruit, you can plant it on your island. And then I assume you can then just farm it for money that way.
Yeah, or do you cock up the economy?
Well, maybe. I haven't seen how that turns out yet.
Is it that detailed? Yeah, if you took...
But yeah, apart from the selling of fruit, there's really no reason to go to someone else's island unless you just want to help them do something that would take a long time. Like I imagine if once we get to like the terraforming part, and we want to like, if you wanted to flatten a whole giant cliff area and you have to do it one tile at a time, then maybe having another person help you would probably be quite nice.
Yeah.
Make that take half as long. But there's no real benefit to just like visiting. And also because the fruit is basically the only difference. All the animals are the same, all the plants are the same, apart from the fruit trees.
What if, when you visited somewhere, there had to be a mandatory gift exchange? You could gain some stuff from nice people, or you could just be a bastard and give them like a dead fish.
Or you could just, require that among your friends. Just say to do that.
Well, yeah.
Actually, I don't actually know how if you can drop items on the floor and have someone pick them up. And I assume they can't pick up items that have been placed in the world. I would assume, because otherwise they could just nick all your stuff.
Right.
But there's also in-game mail system, although I think that's only within your island, so I'm not sure if you can send that to someone else, like over the internet. If you can, that'd be pretty sweet. Oh, and then I guess the one other difference between islands is like what the shops are selling on that day is different for every island. So I guess if you were really that interested in trying to get certain fancy bits of furniture or whatever, you could go to each other's island every day and have twice as much stock rotation.
Yeah, you really need to complete the set.
And then the other sort of new thing in this game is the expeditions, which aren't really new, because even on the 3DS game there was the island that you could travel to, which had special resources and whatnot.
So are these like the mainland?
No, in this one it's like they're like sort of mini islands, I guess. It's like a little tiny island which spawns with like some of. Well, the thing is, it mostly spawns exactly the same stuff. Like if you can get different fruits on these mini islands. Although annoyingly, I've been on like 4 expeditions, and every time it still had the same fruit as my actual island, which is very annoying. But yeah, you go to these little mini islands, and I mean, the mini islands are basically just like harvest this island for cash, just strip it bare of resources and take it all back to your island and sell it.
And also, a really great message to be sending.
No, and also on the expedition islands, there will just be like one random animal guy there who you can talk to and invite to move into your town, so you can get new villagers that way. Which I've already recruited a couple of people who I like the look of, because that's all that matters.
You like the look of? Does that mean you can invite shifty people?
Well, it's more like I don't like some of the Animal Crossing characters just kind of look dumb. I'm just like, I don't want this dumb looking guy in my town, this weird looking kangaroo or this hamster. Get rid of them.
Oh man, I'd have them. Go full dumb.
And I guess if you don't like their personality as well, maybe that's a consideration. But it's hard to get much of a read on that by talking to them like once while you're on this island.
So you're mostly judging people by the way they look.
Yeah, pretty much. Hella racist.
Animal racism. So can you return to these islands once you've done it once?
No.
If you find a good one.
It's literally randomly generated. And the dialogue in game from the pilot guy fairly explicitly says it. Actually, this is one other thing that is pretty good about this game, is the writing is pretty good. I mean, there's not that much, writing
that's good. Right? It's important.
in this game.
It's important, though.
Yes, but what there is pretty good, and in some cases kind of funny.
Awesome.
Good.
Like when the pilot guy is talking about these expeditions, because basically what it is literally saying in translated into real life talk is that these islands are randomly generated. When you leave, anything you leave there is gone forever because it's randomly generated, and it doesn't actually exist.
Yeah,
it's a procedurally generated island that it's just randomly number generated on some level.
Don't accidentally put a tool down or something like that.
Yeah, don't leave anything behind, but anything you take, you can take for free because it's not going to affect anything. But then in game, the pilot guy is like, if you leave anything behind, we'll leave it behind, and you'll never be able to get it back because when we get home, I have to burn the flight plans. It's a policy. Don't talk about it. So I'm not allowed to talk about why we have to burn the flight plans when we get home, but I have to do that.
That's pretty funny.
And then Tom Nook, of course, talks about his ridiculous business empire in a variety of little bits, where it's like when he's talking about how when you take out the loan to make the house, and he's like, it's a interest-free loan. That's a really bad idea, but don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the tax loopholes or any of those stuff. How is he paying for any of this? He has the most ridiculous business empire ever. So yeah.
Flying now.
I'm rapidly turning this island not very abandoned. Already building a museum and a shop, and already got another 2 dudes moving in theoretically tomorrow, I guess, assuming that's how this works.
By the next podcast, it'll be a city.
Yeah, probably. 2 weeks, that'll probably be more than enough to get through most of the progression. I don't know. Maybe.
We'll see.
And Slider about
he has only appeared in a dream so far, as you would.
In a dream?
Well, on your first night when you go to sleep, he just appears and talks to you for a minute about how you should enjoy your life on this deserted island, and invite your friends to your island because the friends are good. And then that's it. And then he's gone. And then it's just like, I'm sure he'll probably turn up at some point, I guess.
A little creepy. He's in my head.
He's always going to turn up, of course. But like, what situation? Because in New Leaf, you had to build a nightclub for him to come and play at.
He's like the one musician in the world.
Well, kind of. I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be less annoying to like keep the villagers you want on your island. Because that was a weird thing in New Leaf where like you have in that game you have a campsite in your town where like random villagers will spawn, and then you can say if you go in there and you're like, oh, I like look at that guy, then you can invite them to actually move into your town. So that's how you get new people. But then after people have lived in your town a certain amount of time, and like a certain amount of time, they'll just start saying that they want to leave every time you talk to them. They'll be like, oh, I'm thinking about moving on. And then you basically have to say, no, don't, and you should stay. But then they keep doing that over and over and over. And it's really kind of annoying when you're just like, I want this guy to stay permanently. Can I have that be a toggle? I'm really kind of hoping that I can in this game.
It's kind of strange. So that's like everyone does that.
I think so. There was just one particular person in the town on New Leaf where I was just like, I want you to stay, but they would constantly say they wanted to leave. And it's just like, it's like a weird thing to have to say to someone where it's just like, don't leave, ever. Just because I like your face. Pretty much. So I'm kind of hoping
some relationships that have gone that way. I like your face.
I'm definitely kind of hoping that there will be some kind of like permanent resident toggle or something. Just so I don't have to keep telling them not to leave all the time. And also, how annoying is it going to be to kick people out that you don't want?
You haven't got for them to say they want to leave, and then.
Well, yes, that would have been the quite easy way to do it previously. Of course, we haven't got to that stage in this game yet. We need to get Isabel in, and then she can deal with all that, apparently. She is the resident manager. So there's that. That's Animal Crossing.
Hey.
It looks pretty good, also, in case you hadn't already seen video of it.
Yeah, it's nice looking. It's cute.
I was kind of disappointed that the owl dude who runs the museum, he just looks like furry like all the other animals. Like they don't have a specific feather texture.
Oh, right.
It's kind of disappointing.
That's kind of a shame.
I didn't realise they were even doing that. Well, so they've got like a fuzzy edge to all of them now.
I don't know if it's really a fuzzy edge. It's more like a bump map or something, I guess.
Okay.
Just makes the fur look slightly, reacts to the light in a furry kind of way.
Right. Yeah. Slightly less just solid block of person.
Yeah. And I do like how if you look at your Nook phone at night, the light shines up on your face. It's like,
oh nice.
That's realistic.
Yeah. You can be the glow man.
Yep.
Like that terrible BBC TV license ad. Glow man.
So yeah, Animal Crossing. I expect I'll be continuing to play that for like a year, literally, because you have to play it for a year to get everything. Because time limited stuff. Certain animals only appear during certain months of the year.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's about.
Yep.
Cool. A house full of gyroids.
Yeah, well, I haven't actually seen any of them yet. I wonder if they're back.
Yeah, I heard they're not in it.
What?
Not yet. So we'll see.
There'll be a surprise gyroid event when they invade.
It's no good if you can't have a whole room dedicated to gyroids. I mean, come on. It's what my old house had in New Leaf. Because you just dig them up out of the ground and there's all different kinds of shapes and sizes. You just have the gyroid collection room. And then you make them all dance.
I remember that.
So that's that.
I'm not at all creeped out.
Yep. That's all I did. Apart from Rocket League, obviously.
Obviously.
Rob?
Season 6 in a day.
Yep.
You
Double XP this
Rocket
weekend.
Well, yeah. Well, I've already maxed out my credits on season 5, so I'm all good. Yeah, I've been playing some stuff. Let's go back to the one I've already mentioned. Let's do some Call of Duty Warzone.
Warzone. So what's the deal with this?
It's Battle Royale.
That's all you need to know.
Like the last one?
Well, no, it's not like the last one. They have changed some stuff for the better. I think they've clearly been taking a close look at Apex Legends
And stealing their ideas.
Kinda, yeah. I don't think it's quite as slick as Apex still. Like, I don't think the I've just been using like the default controls, for instance, and I might have to start tinkering around with them because they're not quite so fluid. That's how I'd like. For instance, like going prone and crouching are 2 separate buttons now. By default, you use left control to go prone and right and C to crouch, and I'm getting very confused about that most of the time.
That's just like Battlefield, though. C to crouch and Z for prone.
Yeah, kind of. That's what I mean. I might need to. Well, I think I've always used left control as crouch, and then Z as prone, so I might need to mess around a little bit. Also, their pinging is on left alt, so which is I think like middle mouse click by default in Apex.
Q.
Well, yeah, I think Q is your like ultimate. I think in Apex, whereas like this is the problem. Like COD just has more in terms of what you're holding at any one time. So it's like you're using your grenades or what your tactical. I think might be on Q, which is like your smoke grenades or stun grenades or flash or that kind of stuff. Non-lethals basically, and your lethals are on middle mouse click by default. But you've also got your melee attack on mouse 4 in my case, or your mount gun to surface, because you can just sort of go on any bit of wall in this as well with mouse 5 in my case, the little extra button on the mouse. Yeah, and it becomes a little bit. So in that respect, there's just more buttons. There's more things you need to be pushing. To do the things, but they've like compared to the previous battle royale that Call of Duty had, there's no like real inventory system. It's like you don't have to worry about the size of your backpack. You carry you carry your primary and your secondary. Ammo is automatically picked up for you. All you have to do is look if you want a gun that to replace your current gun, you just look at it and press F. You know, they've kept that stuff simple, so you're not like carrying around a backpack of stuff anymore. Which is actually mildly simpler than Apex's system. You can still bring up a very, very small inventory window and say, "Oh, I'm going to drop some ammo for a teammate, or I'm going to drop some of my excess armor for a teammate." You can still do that, but it's super simplified compared to the original, which is really nice because I kind of hate that stuff. Like it just ruins the flow of like if you're spending most of your time faffing about your inventory. It's not what I want to do in these things. I want to enjoy the tension of the environment and when you know someone's coming and everyone's sort of getting prepped for this team to either just casually walk by you or to enter the room you're in so you can obliterate them. It's like that's what you're in it for these for. You're in for those moments and like not having to faff is nice. Although there's still a certain amount of faff because you've still got to figure out what you like and what you dislike and whether or not you want to keep or not keep. And you can't get everything purely from the battlefield. So there's a cash system as well. So you're building up money by doing contracts, which are like little mini submissions you can be doing during the fight. So they can be like, oh, hey, just find all these marked crates and you'll get bonus cash for doing that. Or, hey, here's a target. Here's a guy we want you to kill, and that guy is a real player. It's like, go kill that guy, and we'll give you bonus cash. So you can do all these things as well. And the cash system plays in because there are specific buy points around the environment, which can be used to buy certain perks that you might want to have. But the main one you want is the basically cool down a loadout. And what that means is you can pull in a loadout like you would from any other Call of Duty game, but it's your complete setup. So it will be your customized guns. And it will be perks. And this is the only way you can get the Call of Duty perks. You have to pull them down in a loadout. So you've got to get your cash to do that. But the other thing cash is used for is its respawn system, which is again slightly different from other battle royales. In Apex, if a teammate goes down, you can pick up their ID card effectively from their, I think they're called kill boxes or kill crates in Apex. You can basically go find their corpse and steal their ID card, and then you have to take it to a specific place, and it will call down a dropship to respawn them in the world. So that's how you can get your team back. Here, the first time you die, you end up in the gulag, which is basically the Rock.
Right.
And you have a little pistol fight, a one-on-one pistol fight with someone else who's died and is in the gulag. And if you win that fight, you get respawned. If you get killed, you're dead. But you can only do that once. You only go into the gulag once per game. So it's basically you could get a free redeploy. Is what that means. But if you've run out of gulags and you can't redeploy, your teammates can buy you back in with the cash.
Okay.
So there's that.
Okay.
So there's that system going on. And the rest of it is a battle royale with COD feel. COD feel.
No bad thing to have a COD
And
feel.
it's all right, actually. I was kind of expecting to hate it more than I am, because I really didn't like the one that was in Black Ops 4. I played a few rounds of it, and it really didn't click. I think compared to an Apex, there was definitely more downtime, and I'm not sure it's anywhere near as fun as playing Apex. I think I still prefer it, but it's something. It's all right, and it's free, so why not? Well, I'll tell you why not, because it's hundreds of gigs of download.
God.
Literally massive. And it doesn't. I've had some performance problems on my version. Like I'm running the PC version, and it's not, as you might have guessed by my talk about keyboards and mouse, but it's not perfect. It's like I've got some issues of stuttering here and there. I've managed to dial it in so it's a little bit better. Because the first thing it did out of the box was set a lot of the effects up, but turn my target resolution way down. So it was 1080p, but it was rendering it at 66% resolution. So it was all very fuzzy. And I'm like, why is it chosen to do that? That looks bad. So I dialed it the other way. I turned down a couple of effects and turned my resolution back up to 100%. And it's been a better experience that way round. It's just a bit weird out of the box. But it's all right. And it's trying to sell you the full version of Modern Warfare a little bit, but not too much. The free-to-play stuff has worked out pretty okay so far. I haven't really figured out where I really need to drop money. It hasn't been super apparent, which is kind of nice in a way. You can play it just fine. I think I'd rather play regular COD than this Battle Royale mode, but hey, it's all right, and it's free.
Seems to be what the kids are into. Battle Royale.
Yeah.
Well,
It's all right.
all
There's a battle
around
pass, so there's a way of
positive
spending
thing.
money. Yeah, generally, yeah, it's really not too bad. I was a bit ropey at first, and I had some bad rounds where it was just like, I think occasionally you get that COD feeling of, I'm pretty sure I shot that guy first. I'm not quite sure how I died, or I got the drop on that guy and he's turned around and one-shot me somehow. That doesn't always feel like it makes a huge amount of sense, given the world and the high lethality of Call of Duty. But that's how Call of Duty's kind of always been. I don't like that aspect of it when it feels like that, but it's hard to be too mad at it because that's COD. And I don't really understand it and never have fully understood it. Like there's something I've always been missing in its mechanics. And it's still that. There's still times where it's like, oh, I really should have won that. I'm really not sure why I didn't. And then you watch it back on the replay and you still say, yeah, I really should have won that. So it's still that.
I mean, that's COD, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's got vehicles in it as well, but the vehicles aren't a huge deal. The map is way more dense than I expected. I feel like the last one had quite a lot of like open green areas, a little bit in a. I don't know. Like whenever you see a bit of footage of PUBG, it's like a lot of it seems to be quite open areas. But this is quite dense with stuff. They've done the thing where they pull in the multiplayer maps. So like a lot of the multiplayer areas are just in one big map. So you'll go to a place and be like, "Oh, I played this in the Modern Warfare beta. I kind of know my way around. That's interesting." But then you'll come to bits where it's like, "Oh, this is a cookie cutter building that they've just put quite a lot of around the map to pad it out." So a lot of the buildings are actually identical in places. But then every battle royale has that that I've played. There's never everything. There's never been one I've played where everything is wholly unique. Maybe Fortnite does that by now, but even Apex had a lot of these little buildings we're going into. Like, oh, these are the same buildings.
Sometimes that's beneficial, and sometimes that's not beneficial. Because
No.
I remember how it was sometimes in Battlefield where you'd have those like prefab buildings where they just reuse the same building, but you'd run into the ones where
Side,
like,
right?
oh yeah, Planet Side as well. But you'd run into the ones where there'd be like this one specific one somewhere on the map has a slightly different bit of geometry inside it where they've just like blocked off one doorway or like it's wedged into a wall or something. And you're like, you think you can go there and then you can't, and then you get screwed by that.
And you're like, bugger, how do I get there? Yeah, so there's been some weird stuff we've noticed, and we don't know. Like, there was one place in particular where there was a crate we really wanted to open because we wanted a bit of cash. We were a little bit locked down. We wanted a bit of cash so we could res our teammate because it's in threes. It's in trios by default. There is a solo mode as well, but we've been playing trios because again, it's not one of those games I really want to play on my own. I want to play it with people, just like Apex. It's like it loses something if I play it alone. So there was a crate, but it was on the roof, and there was no ladder to get up this building, and nor was there any real bit of scenery we could easily climb on to get there. The only way we fathomed you could get up there was to climb one of the nearby like dock cranes, which did have ladders all the way up, but you'd have to go quite high to get enough to get the ability to pull your parachute and glide over to this building and get the crate on top. And it's just like, yeah, it's a bit much. They're going to figure out where we are if we try that. Just this guy parachuting casually across the sky. So there are bits of the map that are a bit frustrating, for sure. Especially when there's guys on a rooftop, and it's like, I don't know if I can actually find a way to combat this without dying. I'm just going to run out in the open and get hit. But that's the game. That's just what these are. You found yourself in a bad situation, you deal with it. So anyway, Call of Duty Warzone. It's okay. Get yourself some hard disk space. Which is actually not too difficult for me because I bought 2 more terabytes.
Oh yeah.
Because I thought my main games drive was having a wobbly, which is just a hard disk, but it's a hard disk I've had forever. And it disappeared out of Windows for a while. And I was like, oh god, have I lost this drive? Has it just died on me? And I did manage to get it back, but it was starting to make some funny noises. So I think it's on the way out. So I bought some SSDs. Not NVMe drives, because I wasn't confident I could find one that was compatible with my now quite old motherboard. Also, I figured if I ever needed to do a reinstall of Windows, that I'd probably do it totally fresh on an NVMe drive rather than have. I don't know. That strikes me as weird. It makes more sense to have the main M2 or NVMe drive as your OS drive, maybe, and then rather than just as a secondary. I don't know. I couldn't quite figure out what was the right and wrong way to do that. So anyway, I've got another SSD purely for game installs, and I got another one so I could move one of my hard disk based OSs, the one that I do my music and video work on, and the one we're recording on right now, to an SSD because it's a hell of a lot faster.
Yeah, it'd be a lot quicker.
It's night and day. It's so much better. Should have done that ages ago. And the clone process was really easy, as it turns out. Just get hold of some software that will do it for you.
Oh, nice.
Pain-free. Yeah. So, with all that space, I could also install Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Ooh.
I'm sure that doesn't take nearly as much.
No! It's not nearly as big. But it is way better. if I'm objectively looking at it, it's like, oh, hey, I like this thing a lot more.
The Call of Duty?
I mean, it's hard to compare, but yeah, sure, let's go with that.
Yeah, fair. Okay, fine.
Well, unsurprisingly, really, because I was a massive, massive fan of the first Ori game. Love it. And this is kind of that again, which is no bad thing. It's weird. I think I'm forgetting quite a lot about the original while I'm playing this. And I'm sort of playing it again, and I'm like, was this a thing in the original? I'm not sure. Like, it feels like there's way more dialogue this time.
Right.
Which I think they very strongly steered away from in the first game. Like, there was the occasional bit of narrator voice that said a few things maybe about the world from time to time. But now you're talking to characters occasionally. And there are creatures that are just popping up to say one word or something here and there. And it feels different. It's not quite what I expected. I kind of prefer. I think I prefer it when they're doing the whole show don't tell thing the entire time. But I guess there are elements where it's like they couldn't really do that anymore because they've introduced more quest-like elements to the game. So take a step back. It's basically a Metroidvania, but an incredibly pretty one. And a very, very organic looking. Everything kind of moves. Everything is lit amazingly. Everything is animated amazingly. But as I say, they've added. Before it was mostly platform oriented, and it's still that way. Now it's more about the platforming than anything else, with a little bit of combat thrown in and some fancy escape sequences here and there. But now, as I say, that they're leaning a bit more into the Castlevania-y or Metroidvania-y sort of like the map has a hubby bit, and then you can move out from that to get to various areas. But you'll want to keep coming back to the hub area because there's people you can talk to who have things for you to do, or things for you to find in the world, or there's people selling you abilities. Hey, you can buy abilities now. I really don't remember if that was a thing in the original. This and then again my problem. I can't really remember what wasn't in the what was and what wasn't in the original. But it feels like this is new because there's a whole ton of like optional stuff you can buy as like passive abilities, and some active abilities. So this is new. It's like you now assign abilities to buttons, Zelda style, kinda.
Right. Yeah.
It's like you can have more things in your arsenal than you can fit on your face buttons. So there's now a system for swapping them out and changing them. Like they've changed the combat like completely. Basically, in the original, you had like a little wispy thing following you around. Well, probably was a wisp actually. That would basically shoot lightning at things for you. You'd press X or the attack button basically to say attack the thing that's near me, while you were mainly focused on dodging. Whereas now you basically have a lightsaber that just sort of springs
straight
forward.
up lightsaber.
Yeah, so the combat is way more physical, I suppose, is the way to say it. It's like it's less about you dodging out of the way while attacking at opportune moments, and like you actually have to get in there and fight a little bit. So you're using that to stab at things, or you're bringing out a massive hammer for the heavy hits, or you've got a bow and arrow fairly early on so you can hit things at range, but that costs you energy, of which you have a limited amount of. And so the combat feels actually quite a lot more fleshed out than it did before. Not to say that it's any easier, because it's pretty tricky and harsh. You don't have a lot of life. Even when you've leveled up your life, things hurt you quite a bit. And so you've got to be fast to jump out of the way. You've got to be fast to find an opening with some enemies. The game's not easy, which I've always found slightly weird. The first game wasn't that easy either. It's like it's presented as this lovely, well-animated, almost childlike Pixar movie.
But then you get into it, and
it's kind of brutal, yeah.
In a good way, though.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. Like as a let's call a semi-hardcore, shall we, gamer, with plenty of experience in these sorts of games. It's like I'm at home with it, but I can't help but feel that someone coming at it, like maybe if children are coming at it and even putting it in easy mode, I don't know how well they'd really get on with this, because the platforming's still going to be tough. It's like it's asking quite a bit of you, because like you've got Meat Boy-esque jumping and wall jumping abilities, but your jump generally isn't very high. And at the start of the game, you don't have a double jump, and you can eventually buy a triple jump if you want, which I like, because you can kind of scum some sections if you've got that. But most of your maneuvers are about horizontal movement, which makes the way you platform kind of different from most games. So you're looking for the little flat vertical walls that you can perhaps jump to, and then do a very, very long sequence of maneuvers to get to a wall, so you can effectively stick to the other side and wall jump a bit to gain some more height. And you're doing that over widescreen widths, and it feels like a very different way of traversing, even though you're still doing wall jumps. It's interesting, but but that's only the starting point. Eventually, you get the ability to bash, which was in the original, which is projectiles that are coming at you. If you press left bumper at the right time, you can bash off them, sending you in one direction and the projectile in the opposite direction, and you can use that to gain height or position to your advantage. You eventually gain an ability that lets you throw one of those yourself, so you can use it to bash off it to gain height.
Oh, okay.
But you can't do that whilst in motion. You have to do that while stationary, so it's like the start of a maneuver. So you use that to get up and then do some other stuff while you're
like
in the air.
Throwing your cappy and then jumping off it.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah. And then on top of that, you have a grapple as well, so you can grapple to certain points in the level. Some of which will fling you from afar, so you grapple to them, but you can't stand on them, so they'll throw you past them. Others are things that you just grapple to and land on, and it's all these things come together in places, and it becomes a little bit of finger tennis. You're trying to figure out what is the best move to get across this particular area, and it's good, but it's not 100% obvious all the time. Like, it might take you a few times to figure out exactly what you need to do to get around. And when you get it right, the flow feels great, but it's possibly a little challenging for newcomers. Possibly not a particularly casual system. Let's put it that way. I think it's cool and it feels really nice, but it's and to the point where the game kind of knows it and has some race challenges in places where it's just like, hey, just do this route, and if you do it fast, you'll get money, which are fun.
Are they routes you already know, or like?
Oh yeah, they'll normally be a bit of level you've traversed already, but it'll be like, okay, now there are like there might be 4 or 5 items on the route you need to collect, and chuck them in a door at the end, and then behind that door is the finish line. So it's like, quickly go grab all the things, and then come back and get the thing. So it's and some of those can be really cool, especially with the later abilities, like the feather hover and things. Well, I say later abilities, and I think I'm only a third of the way through the game. Which is the other good point. It seems pretty long. I've sunk quite a few. I think about 8 hours maybe into this already, and I think I'm about 40% of the way through, which is nice, according to its own stat. And it's it looks great. It sounds great. There are some really quality bits of soundtrack work going on. The story has a massive gut punch. Spoiler alert. A couple hours in, so it's still pulling those heartstrings just like the original did. It's really great.
Sweet. Well, great news. Is it? Would you play
a decent run at the moment? That's all I'm saying. I'm having a decent run. I'm playing good games.
Would you recommend it to people who haven't played the original?
Yeah, I think you could. There's a little bit of the story work at the start that will make more sense to you if you played the original,
right.
But it's not too crazy. You can sort of figure it out. It's not critical to the plot of this one. But you have an owl friend. Your owl friend has a dodgy wing. You find a feather from the owl's dead mother, I guess, and that you strap to its wing, and then it can fly. So you go fly across to this mysterious other island that turns out to be a hellhole, and you two get separated, and that's where the game begins. That's kind of all you need. It's neat. I think it felt. I had one criticism, and I don't know if this is really a criticism, but just a feeling I got. Like at the start of the game, drops you quite in it. Like it puts you in a bit of the map. You can travel. That bit of map is not as restricted as you would think. Like for the start of a game. It's like you're just like, okay, you're in this new environment. You can go quite a few places. You've got to figure this out for yourself. And it's like a little bit of that is like, oh, that must be entirely intentional, right? A little bit of me is sort of sitting there going, oh, right, you've landed somewhere completely new. They kind of want you to be lost and having to figure this out. And the organic nature of the map design adds to that in the sense that it's like it doesn't feel too much like routes pre-designed all the time. The start of the game especially feels like, oh, it's a massive jungle, and for a while I didn't really feel like I had direction. I was just stumbling into things, but I was finding ability trees, and I was finding things pretty organically, to use that word again, just sort of stumbling upon it. But I didn't really know if I was doing the right thing for a while, whether or not I was going in the right direction or just going out of my way to find things. I mean, as I say, it turns out that all of that I think is intentional. Like that, all of that is actually what they want you to be doing.
Right.
They want you
You're
to be
meant to
finding
feel a
these
bit.
things.
Yep.
Yeah, they want you to be finding those abilities just through the nature of stumbling upon them effectively. So you then have a slightly better arsenal for getting further, and then eventually you get to the point where it's like, well, where else can I go? I've exhausted all my routes. Oh, apart from that one place I can now get to thanks to that ability I've got. So it's sort of teaching you the Metroidvania-ness of the world. Sort of. It's like it doesn't outright explain that. So like there's a sort of window, I suppose, where it would be like, okay, where haven't I gone? Where do I need to go? Okay, I guess this route was right because there was an ability at the end of it, but now I have to traverse back because it's the end of a route. And yeah, I don't know if I'm really expressing that very well, but it's kind of like it was a bit of a out of my depth feeling to the start of the game that is like
right, dropped in it kind of feel.
Yeah, kind of, and be like, what's going on? And all this, and then which now I'm kind of at home with because I'm finding guys that sell you maps to areas, and so I kind of know where everything is and how everything works, and it's not so bad. Doesn't mean it's any easier to traverse, but I understand it now. So maybe that's a little knock. I don't know if that's a knock against it or an absolute point for it, because that's what the story's doing. It's really difficult to say. But anyway, it's bananas good.
And looking like a good length as well.
Yeah, decent. I wish the escape sequences were better. There we go. That's a proper criticism.
Oh, how do you mean?
Because that was kind of the big moments in the first game. So the first game was Metroidvania-ish to a point, and that it still had 3 main levels I think if you get the definitive edition, they had a fourth. But they had like these 3 standalone areas that I don't think you could return to once you'd completed, because they'd kind of either explode or fill with water or something like that. And I specifically remember, especially from that first game, there was a sequence where you just cause a massive flood, effectively. And the sequence of avoiding that was really cool, but really hard, because you had to do the whole escape sequence in one go. And if you fluffed up, you're right back to the start. Now, they've done a few of those already here, but they've never been quite so cool or quite so dramatic or quite so long. So the quite so long bit is probably actually an improvement, because it's a little less frustrating if you cock up right at the end and have to try and do the run again and get that back to that point. So, okay, maybe that's a positive. But so far, they haven't been so nicely presented, like water coming out of a certain area and like that natural look to it. It's kind of just been, I'm running away from an avalanche, which is a giant horizontally moving wall of death. Or I'm moving away from a flood, which is presented as a horizontally moving wall of death. Hasn't quite been as cool as like all these water coming out of various parts of this tree. Oh, now it's coming from over here and it's bubbling up from the floor. Oh man, this is crazy and everywhere. And it's it's just been, this is a horizontal moving wall of death, which hasn't been quite so cool.
No. A bit less imaginative.
Yeah. But, maybe there'll be a better sequence later. But it does seem to be their calling card for, hey, you hit a story beat of importance. Escape sequence!
I mean, they did a bit of that in Meat Boy, right?
I suppose there were some levels that were that way oriented, right?
Well, the boss levels mainly, I
Bosses,
guess.
yeah. Running away. Sweet.
Yes,
Recommended.
It's pretty damn cool. And I can't really think. I've not really been playing too much else. So we talked about 2 Point earlier. I've been back in that a little bit. Haven't played any Wargroove for a while. Didn't go back to Indivisible in the end. My thing about finishing a game just kind of happened with that as well. Finished it. I don't go back so much. And Zach and I played some ODST a little bit.
Oh
more,
yeah,
which I think we talked about. You and I talked about it when we did the solo cast, didn't we? I guess the duo cast.
Well, we talked about it on one of the last 2 casts a bit at some point.
Yeah. That game's still good. It's ropey in its animation now. I'm pretty sure it was ropey when it came out, but some of those character animations are dodgy as. But I just I guess the one thing that might be worth saying about it is the Master Chief implementation of it is a bit weird, because Master Chief is a bit limited in what it can do, I guess. The collection is level based. If you see what I mean. So if you went back to any of the previous games, it's like they're kind of a linear level progression, right? But ODST's not really like that. It has this hub world, and there's bits where you can choose to do the missions in a different order.
Right, the flashback missions, yeah.
Yeah. So because we're playing it in co-op, I think Master Chief has always had a bit of a problem with how it saves the co-op campaign. So it basically always makes you play from the start of a mission. But I think ODST they planned you to play the levels in a certain order rather than in the bit where you could pick the 3 levels in a different order. So if you save in the wrong place, it saves in the streets. But when you reload your save, it reloads the streets at the very start of the game, rather than the streets after the level you just did. If that makes sense, with areas opened up that you could travel to, and the bits you're supposed to be doing next opened up.
Yeah, because the way we ended up having to do it is it doesn't really tell you this, but if you start the mission that you want to do, it starts you in the streets before that mission, but after the last mission in the order that it thinks you were meant to go through them.
I guess, yeah. I think that makes sense. I had a hard time following that sentence.
Yes, it was because we'd done one mission, and then we dropped back into the streets, and then we'd quit it. And then when we went back to load it again, we tried loading it, and it just loaded the streets from the start of the game. which
And we
is
were like, oh no.
that's not right. So then we were like, what mission was next in the list? Like, what mission would have been the next one if you were just working through it in top to bottom order of the list in the game, which is like the theoretical order you're meant to do them in, but you can choose not to. And then if you choose that mission on the mission select, even though it just says the name of that mission, it still loads you in at the streets, but before that mission, if you see what I mean. It loads you into the streets.
Did it just load us straight into that mission and then we went back to the streets in the right place afterwards? I can't remember.
No, because we didn't replay any of the streets, did we? Because we spawned in that specific place, just where the warthog jumps off the bridge or whatever.
Yeah, because we didn't replay the warthog mission, did we?
Yeah. So it's a weird system. It just like the sort of open world streets section is attached to that mission, but only if you're doing it in that specific order that it is in the menu.
Yeah. Which basically, because we were a little bit nervous about the bit where we could pick 3 missions in a different order, we just played all 3 of them. So it's like, okay, next time we reload, it doesn't matter. We'll be at the place where we have to do the next one.
Well, and the second time we quit inside the mission rather than in the streets.
So we'll hopefully reload at the start of the actual mission. Be nice. So yeah, the system for how it handles all that stuff seems a little flawed and not really in the spirit of the original, which is a bit of a shame. I can kind of see why it ended up like this, but it's just not really. You should do better. The Master Chief Collection is like already filled with problems. This is just another one, I suppose. But come on, guys. ODST has always deserved better. It's weird because in some respects it's not as unique or as technically innovative as the earlier Halo games. It's not as good as Halo 3, maybe, but it's on a weird way it's more compelling just because of how it presents itself. It's a stranger. It's the black sheep. It deserves recognition. Yeah, I think that's probably me. I've forgotten anything else I may need to talk about, so there probably isn't.
Cool.
Good games.
Good games.
Good games.
I wonder if I will get Animal Crossing.
I'm tempted.
Digital download, perhaps. That fits on a base console, right? You don't have to buy extra flashcards or anything to. Oh, okay, cool.
Well, I mean, everything theoretically fits on a base console because the memory card you get with it is larger than the cartridge size.
Oh, really? Okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah, I assume you could always put any one game on the Switch, no matter how big it is.
Oh, that's fine then.
You might have to uninstall other stuff, but hey,
that's no problem.
I mean, I think I've got like 3 games installed. I mean, I mostly just get the physical ones anyway, so I just have a bunch of cartridges. But
yeah,
same.
I think I maybe have 2 or 3 actual games, so I think there's probably enough space on there for a couple. And I don't even remember what memory card I have in there because I think I did actually get a different one and put it in there because I remember having to transfer the files at some point.
Was a minor bit of news actually. You've pre-ordered a physical copy of FF7 Remake. They might not get to you thanks to coronavirus.
Oh, shit.
Physical items might be delayed, unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that game, I played the demo.
Yeah, and then Zach and I finished the demo after we hadn't last time.
Genuinely, really fun.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I like it, and I might be playing that, even though I don't have that much nostalgia for Final Fantasy VII myself, apart from watching you guys play it. The battle system is cool. And
I think I
it looks
struggled
really
a little
good.
bit with it during the actual scorpion fight.
Yeah, I mean, I had trouble figuring out how to dodge the kind of scorpion, the rockets, because I tried rolling but it seemed to be better to just do the guard thing. But with Barrett, it looks really weird because he doesn't really have anything to guard with, so he just sort of puts his arm up and then somehow deflects rockets. But at least you're, saving a little bit.
And also, it's a little bit tricky because like the speed of that attack is a little bit faster, I think, than I liked, because you can get animation locked.
Yeah.
A little bit, so it'll be like, cause you can't just like I don't know, the Bayonetta thing of like, oh, I'm in the middle of attack, oh god, I'm in trouble, dodge out at any time. It's like if you've started an attack, you're kind of committed to that animation, and you can't guard until that animation finishes.
No, you can't.
So it's it can be a little frustrating when it's like you start an attack and then the rockets go up and you're like, oh crap.
I had most trouble like trying to maneuver Barrett around to shoot the kind of field generator on the back of the thing, and then as soon as I got around to it, he would immediately just jump up in the air and turn around. It's like, oh, god damn it.
Yeah, I forgot about that for a while, and the camera work doesn't really help you that much.
Yeah, the camera, like, it's actually quite hard to get it to, because you're kind of busy. You're too busy to move the camera. If it was like a normal, like if it was like a action game, then you'd be moving the camera as part of the gameplay. But with this, like, there's almost too much going on to move the camera and queue up moves and stuff.
Yeah, you can vaguely, but at least when you're in the pause mode, you can target specific things there.
Yes.
Which was useful when the gun turrets were above you at that one point. So you can move Barrett away from the wall for a bit and then pause it and then be like, all right, I need you to shoot that one specifically right now.
I actually had trouble with the kind of ninja guys towards the end, or whatever the shock trooper dudes. I didn't actually figure out how you're supposed to fight them.
Didn't it try and educate? Oh no, that was earlier, wasn't it? I was about to say, didn't it try and force you to use the clouds up a stance? Where he's just
is that
attack.
right? You just murderify them, do you? Is that the trick?
Yeah, I think that was what they tried to tell you.
Oh, okay. That's probably what I missed.
I hear that one of the things that you should do in that demo and theoretically in that game is, like, even in the demo it has like quite a lot of options in the options menu for like camera settings and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah.
And even some, like, it's almost like how I was talking about Louise mentioned originally, when it's like there's options in there that kind of change it quite significantly, like how the actual how it handles the camera and that kind of stuff, supposedly. So it might be worth looking at that.
Yeah,
having a play. Yeah, because there's some interesting stuff in there, like the ability to basically change it to classic mode. Where it's doing the movement for you, and you're just picking the ATV action.
Might be worth playing the demo in that mode just to see what it's like.
Yeah, I'm tempted to go back and try it because it's.
Because it says, but this is equivalent of easy difficulty, so it's like, well, that's a bit weird.
Well, yeah, because the game's playing itself most of the time.
Yeah, I guess so.
Picking the stronger attacks.
I guess it's a bit more relaxed, sit back, kind of RPG style.
Yeah, it's interesting that they put it in though, to be all like, oh hey, you can sort of play this like the original, but the game's going to be doing a lot for you.
And it still it looks really cool, and it seems like they've pulled off like the style of the original but updated, which is pretty much what everyone. I'm just kind of quite impressed that they've actually managed to do it. They've actually managed to remake Final Fantasy VII, which I never thought they would actually. Not that they wouldn't do it to make money, but that they would do it like well.
Well, yeah, but and not just remaking it by having the same mechanics. Like they've actually gone a different direction.
It almost seems like it's all worth it.
Yeah, a different direction whilst being the same direction, which is.
The fact that the fans were clamoring for it. Usually fans don't know what they want, and they probably shouldn't get remakes of old shit. But in this case, it looks like...
Hey, if you put the right team on it, good things happen.
Yeah.
And boy, have we waited for it. I mean...
Well...
My concerns coming out of that demo were that, hey, that sequence follows the... I say hey a lot now. That's my thing. This is your like. I've turned into a hey this thing.
I still say like.
It follows the opening sequence of FF7 pretty closely, right? And so the still fairly large question mark over this part of FF7 is well, how much have they added? How much they fleshed out this experience?
It's not going to stick.
In the original, you can finish it in 3 or 4 hours.
It's not going to stick this closely for the rest of it. No way.
I heard someone talking about how they'd been to like Square at some point and they'd played a different version of this demo, and supposedly from like where you start in this demo and where you end in this demo, there's actually stuff that they've cut out within that zone. Like this demo isn't even that whole sequence.
Oh wow! Okay,
so when you get the full game, you get more of this sequence.
Yeah, supposedly.
So the demo's like reminiscent of the original intentionally.
Yeah, it's like this is literally what happens in the original game, but in the remake there might actually be more to it.
But doesn't the Scorpion boss come back like multiple times in the original game as you're leaving the?
Not that boss, that specific Scorpion one. I think you only fight once in the reactor.
Right, sorry. I didn't play it that much.
There definitely are other bosses that turn up a couple of times.
Yeah, so I'm actually I wasn't hyped for this because I don't really care, but now I do. It looks good.
Yeah, the other takeaway is that you can tell that they're characterizing the lesser characters more
beefing them up
in some way than they didn't before. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure they've done a decent job with Wedge. That's the one I'm most unsure about.
Why are they called Biggs and
He
Wedge?
is the least important one.
I guess, but he just seems like so cartoon now, right? I know that's weird to be saying about Final Fantasy.
Barrett's pretty cartoon. I mean,
that's what I mean. I know it's weird to be saying that about Final Fantasy on some level, but he's almost Saturday morning cartoon, like a dum dum.
Yeah.
Which is just it's a little strange. And Jesse's probably a little too thirsty, but as Jim Sterling put it.
That is the weird theme of Final Fantasy VII. Is pretty much just all the women and Cloud. It's like it just happens repeatedly all through that game. Just wait until Gold Saucer.
Oh yeah.
Go on a date with Barrett because you can not go with any of the women.
Just looking forward to doing squats.
Yeah. A hell of a lot of squats.
Do those squats.
I wonder how that mini game will be changed. It'll probably just be like Heavy Rain.
No,
rotate the control stick as you bend your legs and then push it back up and then pull it back down.
Yeah, multiple button presses on screen at a time rather than what was it? It was just 3 rhythmic presses before, wasn't it?
Although it was different buttons, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which was a nightmare on the PC version because it used the buttons that you never use, and you were like, "What the hell did we buy these?"
They were never obvious, really. What is switch? Where is the switch button? Yeah, it's good. It's good looking. Crisp. Zach's probably going to ruin it for me by forcing me not to play it until we record it. Somehow.
It's not ruining it. Let's make it better.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's going to do us, probably, isn't it? How are we doing on the video front?
What we got coming up next? I forget. I've legitimately forgotten because I haven't worked on it yet.
There was a new one, right?
We uploaded Expand.
Came out last week.
Sweet. Check that one out.
I don't remember what we recorded. Oh yeah, that's right. Fairs. It's next in our A to Z because we've finally reached F.
Skipped a few things like Far Cry and stuff that might not be all that interesting. I don't know. But Fez was next for the list we are adhering to.
You're quite excited to do Fez, weren't you, Zeg?
Yes.
God, yes. Yeah, it's one of my favourite games of all time as well. It's properly damn decent. Even if it is slightly more glitchy than I remember it.
I don't know if it's really slightly more glitchy. You probably definitely don't remember it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like it probably always was a little like that. But We were
Cool.
more forgiving of the 360 era.
And then who knows what will happen for the next video, because we probably won't be able to be at Rob's house to record it.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. And trying
We might have to do some kind of online video or something.
Yeah, whether or not we try and use Steam's remote co-op thing.
We just shoot out some more dungeon runs on remote play.
Maybe, yeah, we could figure that out. Or whether I have to try and stream it to you whilst we're doing something so I can still record it, or yeah, something like that. We'll have to come up with a solution. Or we have to run some solo vids, which I don't like the idea of.
You've got to find a way. There's got to be a way.
Yeah.
Maybe I could join your remote vids
Oh, that'd be cool.
if you figure out a way.
Yeah.
Then there'd be an upside to this.
Yeah, because the problem is you couldn't really use Twitch, really, because of the delay.
Hmm.
So I couldn't be streaming and having you guys watch it remotely and having you guys be able to
React in
comment
time.
in a timely fashion. Mixer would do the trick, but I don't think you could do that on PC. I don't know what YouTube streaming's like.
How much delay would there be if you were streaming onto Twitch and we were?
Twitch intentionally puts a delay on
Oh, do
for
they?
competitive reasons.
Oh, I see.
I think it's about 30 seconds. Like, it's significant.
Can you share your screen on fucking Google Hangouts or something? I don't know.
God, probably not well enough.
No, I guess not.
But yeah, it means that Steam solution might be the one, right?
Right.
If there's a way you can make that work outside of Steam games.
Well,
I don't know if there is. And I'm not sure if it's not all Steam games as well, I don't think, the remote play thing. I think it's only ones that have it enabled.
You just want to share your screen, as I say, with two people from Steam, really.
I'm not sure how much delay there is on Steam streaming.
Oh, right, I see. We'll do it live.
yeah. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Or, we could just theoretically find some kind of multiplayer game to play and just have only one of us record it. Or all of us record it and just cut the footage up, but then that's far too much work.
Yeah, that's far too much work. We've toyed with that idea before and we didn't get very far.
Well, listeners, you'll find out. There'll be more videos at some point, but check out the ones we do have. And if there's still a society left in 2 weeks, we'll be back with another Saladcast.
We might be back even if there isn't still a society.
Yeah, true.
We'll have run out of food, but the toilet roll stocks will have replenished.
We'll have replenished. Okay. Catch you for that one.
To and fro of poop and food.
Poop and food. Ballet.
If you don't eat,
Continue.
you can't poop.
Exactly.
Bye.